Hey everyone, how you doing? It's Stephen here from Big Daddy Digital, and welcome to another episode of Tea with Steve Live. It's the Heart Brand Sessions, and I'm very, very excited. This is our third interview in the 24-hour series that we're doing, and I'm really, really excited to bring on my next guest. Now, I've stalked this lady on and off through Instagram for quite some time, many years. We've connected, we've had some fun, we've had some banter, and then we lost touch for a while. And then all of a sudden this year, we met at EMC 2020 in Brighton. It was like, oh, it had to be. And I knew that, through conversation we've been having, that we would hit it off really, really well. And I wanted to bring on Samantha Hearne. She builds epic women's businesses to scale. Sam, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. So I was just saying before I brought you on that actually, we'd made contact online. I'm very grateful for that. And then it was literally, I remember you sent I think it was a tweet or an Instagram post, and I got this. Are you here?
Yeah. The weirdest thing, it was so long ago. It must have been maybe 3.5 years ago we first connected. And then all I remember was you were at the bottom of the stairs and I came down the stairs and I was like, hello, and your face was like, and I was like, it's me, and I was like, so funny. It's so true. Like, I wasn't even supposed to go to the event. I got invited by a friend who was going, and I said, yeah, of course I'll come, and then the rest is history.
Absolutely. So what have you been doing since then? Because, we've stayed connected online and we've had conversations and stuff, even to like 10 and 11 o'clock rants and stuff like that, saying, I can't believe this. And you say, yeah, it's fine. And we've had those conversations, and it's been lush. It really has. So I'm very, very grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
How's it been for you since EMC 2020? Because I know how do I explain it? You're just so on it, in all honesty. And that's why I wanted to bring you on, because there's so much value in what you do that everyone who's connected with me will benefit from. So I suppose selfish, really.
Yeah, for sure. I think, to be honest, that's the first thing. I'd love to touch on that. I mean, after we had the event and then, we started speaking, we're both very similar characters, like we want to help other people. We're super warm and open and friendly and, really genuine. And obviously, I think that's really important online when someone's going through a challenge, however big or small it might be, having a place that you can just say, this is just so hard, or this is just the worst thing, even if it's not the worst thing, and you can just express yourself freely. I think that's so important. And after we had that conversation, it just reminded me that we're all human and every single person needs an outlet. And sometimes you do need to speak to someone that's not super close to you and someone in the industry that can be like, yeah, totally. It is so like poo sometimes. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. I think for me, since EMC 2020, something that's really changed for me actually this year is when I first started my business, I was still teaching full time. So I almost put everything into the business, obviously, to try and, get it up and running. Yeah. It got to a point this year where I'd kind of put all of myself into the business. Okay. And there was nothing really left for me. I wasn't exercising. I didn't have great habits for myself. Yeah. I just saw myself as the business. So I think during this period and lockdown and everything, as well as diversifying and innovating and creating in the business, it's also really allowed me to create space for myself. Okay. Which I definitely don't think I would have done in such intensity as I have done. So I'm exercising every day. I've got a really good morning routine around movement and energy. I've changed the way I'm eating, my breakfast. So some things that some people take for granted were things that I just stopped doing. So I would say this time's been really a success for me in business, but also personally. I mean, of course, we can't go on holiday, and that's a huge part of my life, and we can't travel and things like that. But I've been able to look after myself so much better. I've had better boundaries. The business is doing well. So I'd say this time has been, of course, challenging, but also taught me a lot about myself, which I'm actually really grateful for. Yeah.
So you've got lots of women around you that you coach and you work with. How is what you've gone through, how has that impacted them?
Such a good question. I think the key thing is, and this is what I talk about all the time online, my focus is teaching women how to build a business that lasts.
Yeah.
So based on my experience, so I was still teaching full time. I was head of year 12 at the time. So
Okay.
I had a really intense job. I worked in one of the best schools in the country. So exams, results, it was really, really high driven, so 6 till 6. I was in charge of these kids, being able to go to university, A-levels, and on the side, I'm trying to build this business. But within 18 months, I'd built a 6-figure business. It's not about the numbers, but to give some clarity, organically. And I was still working part-time, up until that point. Mm-hmm. So a big part of my message is building a business that lasts. It's not a race to get anywhere. It's not about how quickly you can reach a number or, have this bag or whatever it might be. So I think actually my community have really benefited from seeing this other side to success, because that's the other thing I talk about. Wealth is not about money. It's about your lifestyle, your habits, your happiness, your relationships, and I know you, Sam, so exactly the same. So I think actually people are happy for me, and they're like, I'm really glad that you've got this time for yourself. And I think it's motivated my clients and my community to recognize that sometimes you do have to put yourself first more. And, I've learned in me being better, everything becomes better.
Okay.
So I think that's the message I try and give, if you're running on an empty tank, if you're not looking after yourself, not sleeping well, all of that has an effect over time.
Yeah.
So I think actually it's been really good because, and the same thing, I'm not a superhuman. It's been a slow progress. I'm only sort of 3 weeks into my new kind of routine, and I'm sharing that process, and it is a process. Yeah. I think that's the other important thing. There's no quick fix to health. I just take a vitamin today and then everything's great, So I actually think it's been really good for them. Refreshing, if anything, probably.
Okay. So what type of things have you been doing then?
Oh, I love it. So
come on.
Basically, so I used to be a PE teacher, and I did a 4-year PE teaching degree. So sport has always been a big part of my life, and I'm super competitive. And that definitely has helped in business, in terms of teaching. I'm very good at engaging an audience, all of these things. So I really am grateful for my vocation, but my competitive streak definitely is why I'm where I am, because I'm very good but I'm also very all or nothing.
Right.
So I'm either running half marathons or doing no exercise.
Okay.
So I had to rewire that for myself, really. I had to be less about doing. I always want to be the best at everything that I do.
Yep, get it.
But when it comes to exercise, that's then really hard, because I shouldn't always need to compete. It should be about my health.
Yes.
So I've been trying to rewrite that subconscious training. Yeah. So now I do something different every day, Monday to Friday. So I do a HIIT session a week, arms, legs, I run, and yoga. And I think, and that's really good for me because it creates balance. And it reminds me that this isn't about, how fit, who I can beat in a race and how fit I can be compared to X, Y, and Z. It's about my well-being. So that's what I'm doing Monday to Friday, between 6 and half 6, 45-minute session. And don't get me started. Oh my God, Steve, literally, this is a joke. So I've got an Apple Watch. This is a lockdown purchase.
Yep.
Closing my rings is like an addiction. I don't know if you saw, before we came on live, I was shaking my arm because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so close. Honestly, it's an addiction. But I'm really enjoying it. And my business is not my only priority now. But when I started my business, it was, because I was like, this has got to work. I really want this to work. I want to be able to leave teaching. Whereas now I'm at that point, the business is sustaining itself. I've got a team of 6, things have moved on, but my mindset, I still wasn't putting myself first. So I think lockdown's been good for me in that sense.
I love it. I mean, I found that I've really enjoyed lockdown. It's been weird. I mean, a lot of people's like, oh, struggling with this, struggling. I'm like, do you know what? I've always worked from home. Every year, I've said it in the last few interviews, every year I threatened to go and get an office. I remember about 3 or 4 years ago, I had a PR and brand manager, Sarah, who was working with me. And we nearly signed a deal on an office just because it had this big, beautiful round window.
Wow.
I mean, it was the whole side of the wall. I was like, and I sat there, I was like, she goes, yeah, but do you mind if I still work from home? And I was like, she goes, because I travel a lot. And I'm like, yeah, you do travel at least 6 months of the year, and you're doing your work from like Prague and places like that. So I'm going to be stuck in this office because the rest of them are freelancers too. Why am I going to spend £600-800 a month on this office just because I like the window?
Yeah.
And yeah, and I took it back, and I've always, I've always worked from home, and I like having my diary as being my own because it's flexible with the family. And and I started off great intentions, lockdown. I was training, I had my morning routine done, that and what have you. The last 2 months, it's been dreadful. And I'm literally, the weight that I lost and was maintaining, I'm back up to 16 stone again. And before lockdown, I was 14-11. So
Wow.
I put on the COVID stone. I'm like, and literally the last video I was eating a slice of cake, and I'm like, neat. And I said to myself today, I'm getting back in the gym this weekend. And it's not because I can't go and exercise. I mean, I've got a bike and everything, but it's just like over the last 2 or 3 months, I've thrown myself into work, thrown myself into the Unite on Purpose campaign that we launched today. And I think now that's launched and it's off, I can actually, the pressure's off a little bit, because we can, we can maintain that really, quite comfortably. We got it trending in 10 minutes. We're, really excited about all the stuff that happened. So now the pressure's off. And like you, I think I need to look at myself again.
Yeah.
Need to look at myself, because that's really important. Because I think if we don't look after us, if the business does rely on us, then we won't have a business.
Yeah. I talk about that a lot actually online and with my clients about the ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
And peaks and troughs. I talk about this a lot. So with my clients, let's say they have a really epic month. I always say to them, be really mindful of the trough, because you're on a peak. And there's two things that can happen.
Yep.
You plateau or you'll drop off.
Yep.
So how can we plateau? So I try and that's something I try and do in my business as well. If something amazing happens, so July's been a plateau for me. Q2 was up, amazing. Amazing. So I was like, do you know what? In July, we need to just plateau. Let's just get back to systems, stripping things back, keeping it simple, planning. And then August, I'm going to launch. So then that'll be a peak. So I try and really focus on that. So, and it's similar with exercise. The last couple of days, I haven't done my normal routine because we went away. We went to Wales to stay with family and we got back on Tuesday night. So I was exercising all over the weekend. So the last 2 days I've done 5K walks, which isn't my normal routine, but I was like, let's just peak. I don't want to trough and do nothing, but I can't force myself to keep peaking. So I try and now imagine that, like, how can I just keep equilibrium, like break even?
Yep. Okay. So what is your recommendation? What's your advice to people who are thinking, okay, because we see a lot of it. It's that typical poster you see everywhere. This is the entrepreneurial journey. It goes like this. Well, actually, why can't I just go like this?
Yeah.
That's what are you teaching your ladies?
I think the key, right? This I say this all the time, but incremental progress. So, and this is all right. So I do refer to education a lot because this is where my background is, and it's taught me so much. But in secondary schools, and obviously, all parents with children in secondary schools will know that things are completely different now to when we were at school and national curriculum and things like that. But a huge
hang on, what do you mean we were at school? I'm like well old compared to you.
Oh, no. How old are you?
43.
Oh, okay, all right, okay. So 10, yeah, all right, okay. But still, between you and me, there's probably not that much difference between now.
Right, okay.
In terms of like the national curriculum, what you learned would be the same as what I learned. The system hadn't changed so much.
Okay.
Big change in 2000, but before that, it was like 1984 or something like that. So we would have had similar experiences in education, whereas now,
I'll let you off.
Yeah, that was a compliment. Whereas now, a big focus is on mastery. So it's like, let's not just rush through, let's go deeper.
Okay.
So that's what I really actually firmly believe in this mastery system. Obviously, from being a teacher, practitioner, but also now being a coach is something that I really do have a passion for, because I think when you run your own business, it's very easy to be very good at one thing, whether it's social media or emails or whatever it is. However, to create a robust business that does avoid this,
Yep.
We need to focus on mastery so that you have more tools, more strategies in your bag, so that when things like COVID happen, you aren't completely flatlined.
Okay.
And you don't know what to do. So I focus on things like, for example, let's say social media is one area.
Yep.
To be able to have content that engages and all of that is one element. But mastery would be, are you able to sell from that content? Are you able to captivate from that content? Are you able to be consistent with that content? Are you able to be relevant? So each area of your business, when I talk to my clients, it's like, okay, we've done this once. I would like you to do this at least 3 times and get the same, if not better results before we move on. It's not about just doing like one-hit wonders or slapdash. It's mastery. And I also do really believe that when we focus on that mastery approach, we do avoid the ups and downs because we take more time.
Yep.
And
I agree.
Through. So that's one way. And the other thing I do is it's all about incremental steps, you know. So don't ever be afraid to create a goal that might not be your end goal, but is a goal that will help you get there. I think there's a lot of stigma around, you know, let's say you want to have I don't know, you know, I'll never talk about numbers, but let's say you're like, oh, I really want to have a 6-figure business. Okay, cool. But first of all, let's just make £1,000. You know, let's just do it bit by bit, because and then you will create that. So incremental steps. And I think some people get so scared to say, you know, my goal is to sign my first client, or my goal is to raise my prices by £100, because they feel like it needs to constantly just be bigger and better all the time. But sometimes it needs to be slow and steady, you know, slow and steady. Oh, what does Luke always say to me? That's my husband. He was slow and steady, smooth and slow, or something, you know, incremental. Great idea. Sam, great name. So yeah, I mean, I think that's so important. The race and the rushing, it makes us, we can create great results, but at the same time, we then also find ourselves continually rushing into this cycle. And I want to try and avoid that. So that would be my 2 things: mastery and smaller steps to achieve the bigger goals.
I like the way you've pictured it as in mastery. So I'll share a little story with you. When you said incremental steps and then repeating that process, that's exactly the process that we had to do when I joined the police. We had a thing called, it's like a PDP, police personal development program, something like that.
Yeah, personal development program.
You had competencies you had to hit. And my tutor, who, you know, we're still really good friends with, jumps on my lives and things. He said, the first thing he said to me was, he goes, I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to make you the best that you can be, because you're a reflection of me.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And literally, so there's about 300 competencies, and you had to get, this is one thing that I couldn't get around my head, to be a success, to be signed off to be a police officer, you had to clear 80%. And I said, why not 100%?
Yeah.
And they were like, well, people don't. You've got to be competent. I went, but why not just be 100%? Well, you can't. They put some of these in there that you can't achieve. And I was like, bollocks to that. So I went through them all. And I remember there's one that I completely live and die by. And it's the whole communication piece for me. And I remember getting this signed off, and he's like, how did you do that? And it was adapting your communication style to meet the needs of the audience. And what I put in my my explanation was excuse my language to everyone who's watching live now, was that, you know, if it's appropriate for me to say fuck in that conversation with somebody who talks like that, then I will. You know, because they will. It's like sales. You know, when I was a police officer, I was thrown into a role or a situation, and then literally I had to sell myself in 5 seconds, because otherwise I was going to get hit with something. Someone's going to attack me, and so it's that same process, and you have to keep repeating and repeating and repeating. And you're right, you have to. I'm very much a believer of going all in on what you're good at, but that all in what you're good at can't be, you know, like a needle thread. It has to be wider, so you can survive.
It's so interesting because the police training and teacher training has so many similarities. how they, because teachers, they have the same thing, like competencies. You have to do all of these, produce evidence, captivate the audience. I think for sure, I think that communication is a lost art, in my opinion.
100%.
Yeah, and communication is one of my biggest values. And I had a recent situation actually where I felt that I wasn't communicated with well enough.
Okay.
And I had to raise it because communication is such a core belief of mine. And I just think we don't, as a collective, we don't use our voice as constructively as we used to because there are so many more distractions.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, when you first said, like I'm online and I do all of this stuff, I think because communication is so important to me, I always want to be the one communicating that message.
Yeah.
And people say it all the time, you're always online. I might not always actually be online. It could be repurposed, but you know what I mean? There's always my voice or me. And I think it's because communication is so important.
Yeah.
And I really do value it. And you're exactly the same. When we were at the conference and we stood and we were talking to people, body language, there was someone came over that obviously knew that we'd met and they didn't know who we were. And we were both open in the body language, talking about them, including them in conversation. Yeah. I think it's so important. You have to allow people to feel how you would want to feel, whether it's in your business, in life, online, offline. So for sure, I think the police, do you ever miss that?
I do, but not. I miss two things. One is the fast cars, and the other one is having a completely different situation scenario to go to every day. It's the unexpected. I could speak to. It's really funny. I do this when I teach social. It's again, the art of communication is the most important thing in the world, because in the police, when I was a police officer, 1 minute I would be speaking to a little old lady who lives down the end of my road, and the next week I'll be speaking to the little old lady who runs the country. She's still a little old lady, but it's how I'm speaking. She's the queen and she's Mrs. Smith. No, I'm going to talk to them. I'm going to give them the same amount of respect. I'm going to treat them as though they're a person. They're very, very important. It's not about me. And even with like Big Daddy, we've gone through a shift over the last 18 months. Change from Big Daddy PR to Big Daddy Digital. I'm still not. I haven't been right with launching the full rebrand, and it's actually because I know we're not a social media agency anymore. We are a communication agency.
Yeah, I love that.
And the whole purpose, thank you very much. The whole purpose is, and we've got it nailed now, is we're not here to do your social media. We're not here to run your Facebook or to make you videos. We're here to communicate a kind of world.
Yeah, bingo. That's so important. Communication. It
has to be. And it has to be kind, not so much positive, but kind. You can still say something that is negative, but in a kind way, but it be constructive, because that someone can learn something from it.
Yeah, love that. Love that.
So what are your ladies learning from you right now?
Great question. I would say the fundamental things that I really focus on are, how can you grow an organic business successfully and sustainably? And then how can you scale that business? So there's like core messages for me. One is, funnily enough, in the growth, it's all about community. How are you building a brand and a community? Like my community are the backbone of the business. It's not me. I'm not the reason I have a successful business. It's my community.
Okay.
So growth, the community element, is something that I am really hot on. Like, do you speak to your people? Do you connect? Do you add value? Do you show up? Like, are you there to benefit them? Or are you expecting them to benefit you? Because that needs to change. That's the first thing. And then when it comes to scaling, I talk all about planning, systems, and finances, but in a way that's real. Like, let's just be honest. If someone says that they have 100K launch, they do not have £100,000 in their bank account. So it's about how you utilize the wealth that you create, but it's also about how you build a business that benefits your lifestyle and how you systems that support you. So I try and do the community and the growth element and the nurturing. And then it's about, okay, now you need to think more business savvy, and it needs to become more about how you future-proofing your business, how are you making sure that this is sustainable. That's my keyword at any level, sustainable. So yeah, they would be my two kind of core messages that I try and put across.
So I've got a question then, and it's a personal but not deeply personal.
Love it. Go for it.
Why did you choose to work only with women?
Do you know what? That's a good question. Now, I have had male clients in the past. I think, to be completely honest with you, Steve, it's more who I've attracted.
Yeah.
And me specifically. Now I specifically do, but I think it's more who we relate to. And I feel I have had male clients, but I feel that it's more women relate to. Thanks, Jackie. Women more relate to me because I think I can relate to them. But the interesting thing is, I'm very in my masculine energy. I'm very driven, doer, action. I'm not as much of a surrender. If anyone knows about the kind of feminine and masculine energies, but I would say that women are then drawn to that because obviously, as a female, a feminine, we tend to dominate in our feminine, whereas I dominate in my masculine, and I think that attracts females because it's a different dynamic. So to be honest with you, it's kind of organically gone that way, that I just focus on females, really.
I asked that question, and I like the fact that you've lent into the energy, because I'm all about energy and the exchange of energy.
Yeah.
And I've been looking at my Facebook group recently, Tea with Steve, and it's been really interesting because over the last 6 months, my numbers have gone completely the other way. So the group was very, very split, sort of like 55, 45%. And then it got to, then it was literally a 51-49. And that 51% was men. And then over the last 6 months, it's gone literally almost 70% women.
Do you know what I think that is?
Go on.
This
I'm interested.
This just completely from me, obviously knowing you and following your business. You're very nurturing in your mannerisms and the way that you present your content. I feel like you're very, I just feel you're super empathetic. You're super honest, super relatable. You're super vulnerable. And women need that type of male influence.
Okay.
And that's what I think. You're super, I think it's refreshing. You will happily talk about the down days, the things that go wrong in your house, the stuff that's gone on, what you're doing with your family. And I think that also really attracts women because it shows the well-rounded, I think as well, because it's the same for men. Men have a stigma just as women have a stigma. And there is a big, stereotype around the man being the kind of the strong, and I actually think that that's the reason that women are more drawn to you, because you show the roundedness of that. You're able to provide and be that masculine energy, but you're also super real and honest. And that's not the way that a lot of that masculine energy comes out online. So I'm not surprised that you've had that sort of swing, actually. I think it's super, super positive, because it shows that the real you is able to attract the people that want that energy. I think that's great.
Thank you. And you know what? I'm just going to bring a comment up because someone agrees with you.
Stephen is approachable, non-threatening women. Yeah, it's totally true. Jackie, honestly, it's so true, isn't it? They do. And that's a big thing. That's the other thing I'm going to touch on.
I'm very, very grateful for that comment.
Yeah, feeling safe online. I'm really good. That's such a good point, Jackie, because the online space is open, as we all know. Yep. And in recent time, more than most, I've had people, you've probably seen, like, duplicate my account, try and scam people, all of that. Yep. But ultimately, people always reach out and you want to feel safe. And the internet should be no different. Like, this conversation would be exactly the same if I was sat in that office with you.
Yeah, it would.
There should be no difference. And I think that's come across. You don't have a barrier between who you are online and who you are offline. And that's why people feel safe.
And that's what I say to people all the time. Again, and we said this tonight, with James, it's been, I encourage people to be completely and unapologetically themselves so that they can be recognized online and offline, because because just trying to have these different personas, it's hard work. And why would you want to have something, why would I want to be that, I remember I was watching Modern Family at the weekend and there was a weather report. It's one of my favorites. And there was a weather reporter, and he had this persona about him when he went on TV, and I'm like, oh really?
Exactly. You don't want that.
No, it's hard work.
Trust you. That is why you don't have that. So I actually think that's a really good thing, and you are exactly the same in real life and online. And I would say I'm definitely that too. But some people find that hard.
Yeah, they do. They think they should be something else, and they're worried about the real them being judged.
Oh yeah, that is hard.
And I suppose, and I used to be like that, because going back to when you mentioned earlier about the fitness side of things, I remember when you were saying like being the best. When I was a bodybuilder, that's all it was about.
Yeah, we have so much in common. It's crazy.
Pardon?
We have so much in common. It's crazy.
Yeah, you're right. Bodybuilders are worse than supermodels. They look in the mirror all the time, not because they're vain, it's because they're judging themselves.
Yes.
Is that fat? Is that water? Have I lost size? It's all, bodybuilders are the most unconfident people in the world, and that's why they're doing what they do to raise their own confidence and self-esteem. And I was no different. And it was funny because after my first show, I was meant to have a layoff, and I didn't, and because I had started eating carbs again, and I ballooned up, and I looked massive, and I looked great. And then literally about 4 weeks in, I looked at my ankles, I went, no, it's not, it's water, I'm carrying fluid. And then literally 2 months later, I had a heart attack. And that just changed everything. And now, so what, like you were saying about being the best, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to be like that anymore. I don't want to be the best anymore. I want to be the best version of me.
Yeah.
So I don't want abs. I'll just have a flat stomach. Thanks.
Yeah. Actually, on that, I'd love to kind of offer a piece of advice to everyone as well, because it's so similar to what you said. I'm a people pleaser at heart, 100%. And my first business was in anxiety coaching.
Okay.
When I first started, that was my first kind of 18 months. And anxiety was huge. Well, the whole of my 20s, I was riddled with insecurity, anxiety, people pleasing. I was so insecure. My fear of abandonment. My dad died unexpectedly when I was 14. My mum moved to Jamaica when I was 21. So I kind of, I was on my own in the world, and that really impacted me. So when I came in the online space, I would say I did struggle to begin with, because there's a lot of indirect judgment and competitiveness and comparison, and is this person doing this and that? And I think the one thing that I always do now to help me, which I know can help all of us, because it is hard when you expose yourself so honestly to the world, and people can be skeptical and dubious and judgmental, and that's really hard, because it can knock on your character. And especially when you're building like Tea with Steve, Samantha Hearne, you're building a brand around yourself. That's super exposing. And I think the one thing that I do now is I imagine myself sitting in a car. Okay. And I imagine myself on the road. And all I do, and this has really helped me, especially I used to have to do a lot of like mental rehearsal when anxiety was really, really, I can't even, it consumed my life. Whereas now I'm not in that place, but I still use these strategies. So I imagine myself in the car, and whether it's social media, interviews like this, going live, client calls, whatever it is, I imagine myself in the car, and I think, okay, we're all on the road. Stephen's now in his car, and all of you are in your cars, and we're all on the road together, M25, M1, M4, wherever you want to be. And I think if I get out of my car and I go and sit in someone else's car, I'm not in control of where we're going, but I can see the road. So I've already lost my power a little bit, my own personal power, because I've decided that I'm going to go and sit in their car. And they can drive along and indicate they can go faster and slower, and I have no way of influencing that for myself. So all I imagine now is, as long as I'm sat in my own car, going on my own road, whatever happens around me doesn't impact whether my car can move. Okay, love that. So let's say I do a post on online, and this was the first time actually, because one of my clients challenged me to it. I never talk about numbers, because that's a big trigger for me, because I wouldn't want anyone to think that I was greedy, materialistic, and all of that, which is, I know it's a complete, block. But so I thought, okay, let's put myself out of my comfort zone, and I shared, and it was really uncomfortable. But I thought, you know what, Sam, you're in your own car. You know that this is your journey. You know that this is your truth. And anyone else, if it's really bad, this is what I visualize. I imagine using my windscreen wipers and wiping them away. And I'm away, and then I'm just going to carry on driving. So it doesn't mean that they won't block my view. It doesn't mean that they won't slap the windshield and like shock me, but I can choose to just put my wipers on and remove it. So if you are ever in a situation where you do feel this, cloud of should I do it, shouldn't I do it, what will people think, just ask yourself if you're in your own car when you're thinking about that, or are you outside of your car, stood on the motorway watching everyone else drive around thinking, oh, will they stop, just put yourself back in your own safe space. I think that's what I try and do as much as possible now.
That is awesome advice. Sam, I am so grateful for you joining me tonight, especially at this hour as well.
I love it, of course. I'm super happy to support everything you're doing and this amazing launch and just have a conversation. I've loved it. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Brilliant. Where can everyone find out? Where do you want people to connect with you?
I would say the best thing to do is find me on Instagram. Or Facebook. You just search my name and I'll come up, and then you can spend a lot of time hanging out on my yellow sunshine page.
Do you know what? It's really interesting you should say that, because I was sat there thinking, I was like, I know your brand color. So the picture that I've used for tonight, the sort of the border around yours is yellow. Everyone else is blue and red because they're my brand colors. I broke brand because I know that your brand is yellow.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I love it. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's been awesome speaking to you. I'll speak to you again soon, okay?
Sure. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Cheers. Take care now. Bye-bye. Guys, how fantastic with that. And the great piece at the end for me was just, you know what? You're on your journey. It doesn't matter who bangs on your windscreen, because you've got these windscreen wipers. You can move people out of your way and you can keep going and staying in your lane. So that's the third interview, and it's been a very, very enjoyable and pleasant marathon so far. I've really appreciated your comments coming through in the chat, and we've shared some of the ones that have been relevant. And you know what? And also to inspire the speakers that are coming on here tonight, and show them that actually, you know what, you're paying attention, you understand, you resonate, and that people are actually really there and in that zone with you. So I'm very, very, very grateful. Now, I have a gift for you. Okay. The next meeting, the next one, should be either at 11 or at 12. If you're up staying late, send me a direct message on Facebook and let's bring some of you guys on. I know we have a slot tomorrow. There's one slot available. I have a special guest. I'm actually going to have somebody here with me tomorrow as well. And yeah, let's see how much of an impact we can make going forward throughout the night. My friends, please, anything you see with a hashtag Unite on Purpose and Join the Quiet Revolution, please pay it forward, share them across all of your socials. Also, just to let you know, there was a link around all of these lives that I'm doing tonight. It's a link to show your interest in the Heart Brand Academy. Yes, I know you've all said, oh, finally it's coming. You know, we've been holding off now for the best part of 6 months, because it was ready. It's always been ready. It needs some fine tuning and for what COVID has produced for people with anxiety, challenges, various tools and this, that, and the other. But the doors are opening on Monday. If you would like to enter some more information, click the link, pop in your details, understand in the landing page what the Heart Brand Academy is all about. It's really over the next 12 to 18 months is holding your hand through the recession, building your personal brand and activating it. Because you know what? It's all well and good, like I say, about having all of this knowledge and all these nice shiny things and, you know, things that you can implement, but it's the action, it's the activation. It's all well and good having a personal brand and, you know, sharing a bit of your story, but unless you actually activate it, it's going to do you no good whatsoever. So we're building the businesses of you. Now, if you're in business, fantastic, great, have a conversation. If you are a business owner who employs people, what about the people brands in your business? Think about that. They're all advocates of your business. If you're a business owner and you have 10 staff, they're all part of your sales and marketing team, whether you like it or not. They're called your growth team. Don't ever separate sales and marketing. They should be one and the same. Come together, bring them together. They're your growth team. Take care, my friends, and I will see you on the Tea with Steve Lives, the Heart Brand series. I'm really enjoying it. I hope you are too. We're supporting the Unite on Purpose campaign. We're impacting 1 billion lives across the world. Enjoy what we're doing with you over the month of August, and find that hashtag Unite on Purpose. Join the Quiet Revolution. See what's going on. Connect with like-minded businesses and people, and then come and join us in the Tea with Steve community. Take care, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.